The tragic story of the real Johnny Bravo will leave you in tears. In 1996, Johnny had the opportunity to compete in the prestigious Mr. Olympia competition, vying for the title of the world's best bodybuilder. However, fate had a different plan in store for him. On the day of the show, Johnny found himself in last place, which shattered his confidence and sent him spiraling out of control. Overwhelmed by frustration and anger, Johnny began to attack his opponents and the judges. Chaos ensued, and the police were called to the scene. They quickly surrounded the arena, but it took over 50 officers to contain Johnny's uncontrollable rage. Eventually, they managed to restrain him, strapping him to a chair before placing him in a police car. However, Johnny's fury was far from extinguished. As he sat in the back of the police car, he unleashed his immense strength, shaking the vehicle from the inside. The car tipped over and rolled down a nearby hill, ultimately submerging in a nearby lake. Sadly, by the time rescue workers arrived, it was already too late. This old man was pure evil. In the small town of Goobersville, Georgia, there lived a grumpy old man named Harold Jenkins. Following the passing of his beloved wife decades earlier, Harold had become a recluse, rarely seen in public. One day, the local newspaper boy went missing, and the last place he was seen was in Harold's neighborhood. Suspicion quickly fell upon the solitary old man. The townsfolk couldn't help but point their fingers at him, believing he had something to do with the disappearance. The police, driven by the need to find the missing boy, arrived at Harold's doorstep. The sight that greeted them left them in shock. The exterior of Harold's home was unkept and neglected. With a search warrant in hand, they knocked on the door, announcing themselves as the police. No response came from within. To their surprise, the front door was unlocked, and they cautiously entered the disheveled house. The state of chaos and neglect made it seem practically unlivable. The silence was deafening as they made their way through the house, their footsteps echoing in the empty rooms. Their search led them to the basement door. With apprehension, they opened it, and there, sitting in a chair, was Harold, fixated on a broken TV. "Be quiet!" Harold said in a furious tone. "This is my favorite part." Confused and intrigued, the police officers exchanged glances. After a tense 30 seconds, Harold spoke again. "If you're looking for the boy, check the freezer." This 17-foot-tall cowboy messed with the wrong guy. In the early 1900s, there was a towering cowboy named the Wrangler who stood at an impressive height of 17 feet. He was known as the most dangerous cowboy of his time, having won over 700 duels and leading his loyal followers to raid countless villages. One day, the Wrangler and his men set their sights on a tribe known as the Backwood Brothers. They arrived at the village's gate, attempting to forcefully enter as they had done so many times before. However, to their surprise, their usual tactics failed repeatedly. Weeks went by, and the Wrangler's frustration grew more day by day. Little did he know, the leader of the Backwood Brothers, Cletus, had devised a plan. Cletus scattered hundreds of banana peels around the front gate, ready to trip up the Wrangler upon his return. When the Wrangler finally came back the next day, he charged towards the gate, unaware of the trap set for him. As he stepped on the banana peels, he lost his footing and tumbled backwards, instantly becoming paralyzed. Helpless and in pain, the Wrangler cried out for assistance, but his henchmen were unable to aid him. From the safety of the gate's top, Cletus taunted, "This is the part where you run away." The Wrangler's followers fled, leaving their leader stranded. The following day, they returned to rescue the Wrangler, but he was nowhere to be found. Confused, they demanded answers from Cletus. From the top of the gate, Cletus smirked and shouted down, "Sorry, but there are no leftovers." This was the OG Karen. In the year 1912, there lived a woman named Karen Stacy. She was always known for being rude and obnoxious, already having been in 12 failed marriages and living off the child support money from her baby daddies. Never having to work a real job in her life, she decided to pursue her dream as a model and actress in the Big Apple. Leaving her kids and past behind, she would buy a first-class ticket aboard the Titanic. One night, she would eat dinner at the fanciest restaurant on the ship. She would order a soup and salad, letting the server know that she was on a diet. 45 seconds after placing her order, Karen would scream at the server from across the restaurant, demanding answers to why it was taking so long. When the server tried to explain, Karen wouldn't even let him speak, demanding to speak to the manager. The manager would say the meal is on the house, allowing Karen to eat for free. When her food arrived, she would yell, "Where are my croutons?" and take a sip of her soup and spit it out at the server because it was too hot for her. She would then go ballistic and accidentally fall overboard. Everybody in the restaurant would cheer, and the captain would tell the staff to not attempt a search and rescue.